Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and yes, I know I'm a little late to the party, but I have officially found the new Soundstrike figures. It took me quite some time to locate them, as they were definitely testing my patience in my area as far as the release and availability of them goes. I saw everyone else finding them. I could not find them at all in my area, but luckily for me, I did just find them the other day, and I'm super happy now to have this version here of Baryonyx Grim in my possession to review for you guys. And as you can see, it has some really nice Camp Cretaceous packaging to it, which I cannot wait for Season 2 of Camp Cretaceous. Definitely looking forward to that. I was really confused when watching the first season because I was awaiting the Baryonyx to show up. I didn't realize that Toro was going to be like the primary bad guy with the Indominus, and with the kind of release of all the figures and everything, I had assumed that the Baryonyx trio was going to be kind of like the main antagonist of the film, or, well, I guess show, but no dice. I was really confused once the final episode came and I did not see the Baryonyx at all, but now I understand, therefore Season 2. So that's where we'll get to see this guy finally in action. It's the first time we've had a Baryonyx with this kind of action feature as well, so that aspect of the figure is really exciting to me, to have a new variant of the Baryonyx. But then here on the back of the packaging, you can see that, for one, this card thing has, for some reason, really significantly jumped up into the packaging. I don't know how that happened, but you can also see some images of the Baryonyx, as well as an image in the bottom right hand corner of both the Pteranodon and Triceratops that are also released in this wave of Soundstrike figures. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get out this new Baryonyx and take a look at it. So here is our new Baryonyx Grim. And I, of course, bring him in facing the same position that you had just seen, but we'll turn it around and take a look at it from this side. And what a beautiful looking figure. I'm really a big fan of the paint scheme on this newest version. This might be one of my favorite Baryonyx figures to date as far as the actual paint scheme goes. It's a really cool looking paint scheme they've gone with, and I love the fact that the paint has run all the way out onto the tail right there. So very exciting as far as this figure goes. I'm really psyched to take a look at what the action feature looks like. It's pretty much, I think, the standard Mattel theropod action feature at this point, as we seem to continuously get this kind of action feature. But it's a really nice one. It definitely makes sense being a theropod, and generally something that works well with this type of dinosaur. I'm also really happy to see that on this one the mouth is held closed, because so many of the previous Baryonyx kind of have their mouth just hanging wide open, and then when you press the button it closes the mouth. However, this one overall I think is more beautiful and more appealing than the previous Baryonyx figures, due to the mouth being closed initially and not hanging wide open. But the only way to truly tell how nice the figure is overall is with a closer look, so let's go ahead and do that right now. So we have reviewed the Mattel Baryonyx about 4,000 times probably at this point, so we're not going to actually review every aspect of the sculpt. Of course, we don't need to. If you would like to see more in-depth reviews of the sculpt, make sure you check out some of my previous Mattel Baryonyx reviews. But as far as this, we're only really going to see what's new with the figure, and straight away, one of the most exciting aspects for me is the use of an articulated jaw. So that is awesome, because this isn't something, although we've had articulation in the jaws of the figures before, with the Baryonyx it was always like a jaw snapping action feature, so you were never able to have like just straight up articulation in the jaw, and that's exactly what we get with this newest version of the Baryonyx. So now you have some really awesome possibilities as far as posing your Baryonyx with the jaw and kind of having it in any position that you would like, and it also allows you to display your Baryonyx with the mouth closed, which is also something previously that I don't believe we had the opportunity to do. But paint-wise, you can see that there's a really nice coloration here for the teeth. It's kind of like an off yellow, like a really sort of a light yellow mixture with like a white, sort of. And I think it's a really nice kind of a realistic looking coloration there for the teeth. They definitely look good. Inside the mouth, we have a beautifully painted tongue with a very nice realistic coloration in there. No coloration as far as the inside of the mouth goes anywhere else other than the tongue, and then the kind of like skin flap here on the inside of the mouth does sport a little bit of that paint, but I don't feel like it needs too much more. I feel like what is there definitely looks good, and you can see that for the most part all of the paint application looks pretty darn smooth and pretty darn good. The only area that's a little bit of a sloppy paint application would be like the tip of the tongue. You could see the underside of the tip of the tongue kind of missed the paint, but other than that I think it looks really quite nice overall. And then of course here on the head you have a very nice greenish coloration, and then in the eye area we have like this nice metallic looking red, and then it has like a an ever so slight shade of like purple that kind of borders around the paint here, that reddish coloration that borders around that area. And I think it looks really, really cool. I cannot wait to see this dinosaur in action in the series and get an idea of what it looks like in the actual show. But as far as this figure goes, I think it looks exceptionally cool. And you have a really nicely painted eye there with a nice yellow and a black pupil as well. And then same deal over here. Beautiful paint application on both sides, and there doesn't appear to be any sloppiness or anything like that. No missed eye paint or anything as far as that goes, so the head in general looks extremely, extremely nice. And then as we move down here into the neck, again, we have some more of that green coloration. It looks like up here on the top, we almost have like an alternate shade of green, but not too different, just a little tiny hair different. And then once we come down here, you can start to see kind of like an off-white that borders around some of the green and also spots in certain spots on the body, and also some of the green appears to spot down as well. And that continues to run back here into the back of the dinosaur, and you can see this nice dark green. But then once we get to here, it transitions to like a lighter green, which is really cool to have some paint variation as far as the different greens used. There's, just a little more paint application to it than what you often get from Mattel, and I really like that aspect. And again, that green runs all the way out onto the tail, not the whole way, which would have been, more appealing to me, but it does go out pretty far onto the tail, which is definitely a plus. And it's actually kind of nice that it kind of ends right there, because then it gives even more paint variation, allows for this kind of brownish coloration here for the underside of the dinosaur to run out here and then overtake the end of the tail. So I guess I kind of actually do like that aspect. You can also see the green runs down here into the thigh area and kind of spots and designs all over the place in the thigh, but then it stops dead. We do have some nail paint here on the feet, which does look really good, definitely very nicely done, and it's also glossed beautifully. We don't have any nail paint here on the hands, though, which is a bit of a downside. I don't know why they decide never to paint the nails on the hands, but it is what it is. But again, looking at the opposing side, this side as well looks absolutely gorgeous. Of course, being a Mattel figure, you're really not going to see much difference on either side in comparison to the previous side, but an absolutely beautiful looking paint job as far as I'm concerned, and with the addition of the newly articulated jaw and just generally the really nice look of the figure, I am really happy about this release. So as far as articulation and all of that fun stuff, of course, we do have the articulated jaw, which we have already pointed out numerous times. You can also see there is articulation in the neck, but that also is because of the action feature. Articulation in the arms, which move forward and back and out away from the body. So lots of articulation there. And then you have articulation in the legs. Of course, both legs articulate independently, so you don't have to worry about them moving together. And then the legs also move out away from the body. And then there is actually the Jurassic Facts app. If you would like to add this to your collection, if my camera could focus on it maybe a little bit right here. There you go. And then we also have articulation in the tail, but that is due to the action feature. So to see the action feature, pretty cool. Got some really nice kind of theropod noises there, and the action feature works pretty well. Of course, some might have preferred the action feature to kind of have the button like we get on a lot of the larger Mattel figures, where you can move the tail but push the button to make the jaw snap. But personally, I actually really love the ability to articulate the jaw, so I'm much more partial to this currently. But as far as a size goes on our Baryonyx, for a length, you are looking at about the 13-inch range, or about 33 centimeters. And then for a height, about 4.5 inches or 11.5 centimeters, maybe closing in on 12. Really nicely sized. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our newest Mattel Baryonyx Grimm. And you can see next to these figures, if you happen to have missed every one of the Baryonyx previously, you'll have a pretty good idea, I think, of the size overall next to these figures if you happen to have any of these. And again, the Soundstrike figures from Mattel always do sport a really nice large size on them, and you can 100% see that carry through with this Baryonyx. So this Baryonyx Grimm is definitely one of my most anticipated, I would say, of the newer releases from Mattel. Previously, we've all had, I believe, the same Baryonyx continuously, just with different repaints on it. But this one now has articulation in the neck, a new action feature to it, and on top of that, an articulated jaw. So with there being some new stuff introduced to the Baryonyx, I was really excited about it in general, really happy, and very eagerly awaiting this figure's arrival. And then, of course, once it actually started to arrive, it took me forever to find one, which was definitely a bit of a struggle, but it is what it is. I am super happy to have it now, though, here in my collection with a newly remodeled, I guess you could say, well, not really remodeled, but redone version of a Baryonyx. This one, again, sports a really cool, nice greenish paint scheme, and I love the way Mattel has painted this figure. I think it, in general, looks really cool, and potentially something that I could see on a real-life living Baryonyx, because the colors all look pretty darn nice, pretty natural overall, and they're also nicely applied on the figure. Mattel has done a great job, as usual, of applying the paint, making it look like it's nice, natural body color, as opposed to paint on a figure. The overall paint scheme is very appealing, but the fact that Mattel has done a great job of applying it, and even including paint out onto the tail and everything, is definitely a huge plus. We do have painted nails on the feet, which also is a huge plus, because sometimes even the sound strikes tend to get skipped out on in the paint on the nails aspect. Unfortunately, the lack of paint on the fingers is a little bit of a downside on the fingernails, but you know, maybe they'll get to improving that at some point in the future. Regardless, I still feel like paint-wise, the figure looks great. Sculpt-wise, the figure has always looked great. Mattel's Baryonyx is top-notch as far as the sculpt and detail goes, but pretty much everything Mattel releases is always top-notch as far as the sculpt and detail goes in the Jurassic World line. And the new action feature is quite fun. It's nothing amazing. It's nothing groundbreaking, because we've seen it numerous times already from Mattel previously, but still a really cool action feature on the Baryonyx, and the addition of the articulated jaw, actually being able to articulate it ourselves, is pretty much the icing on the cake for this Baryonyx release. So if you would like to pick this up, make sure you head to your local Target, as it should hopefully be in stock now, if not soon. My area is really bad at getting new releases in, so if my area happen to have it, your area hopefully should too. So make sure if you do spot this figure in the wild, you pick it up, and otherwise make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.